We'll start. I'll start. Okay. dehino smin yathā dehe kaumāraṁ yauvanam jarā tathā dehāntara-prāptir dhīras tatra na muhyati. So Abhishek, why don't you do the Sanskrit? You can do it slow. You don't need to do it fast. At your pace.
I'm really sorry, but might be my Sanskrit will be a little bit
That's fine.
yeah.
None of us are good at
I,
Sanskrit.
I will try my best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dehino smin dehe kaumāraṁ yauvanam jarā tathā dehāntara-prāptir dhīras tatra muhyati.
Very good. That's pretty
Uh,
good.
I'm
Uh,
sorry. Yeah.
Don't be so. That's perfectly fine. Sanskrit, even I used to struggle a lot. One trick, if you guys are interested in learning Sanskrit, if you go on YouTube and put in the verse number, like you're reading a particular verse and you want to know how the Sanskrit sounds, YouTube, there's like the exact thing. So you listen to it, and you sing it in a tune. That's why it's broken into 4 lines. So you can say, so dehinosmin yathā dehe kaumāraṁ yauvanam jarā. Any verse you can take in Bhagavad Gita and you can sing it in this tune, and you will remember it by singing it in a tune. Okay, Akanksha, can you read the Sanskrit, please?
Okay, dehina means of the embodied,
Yep.
asmin in this, yathā as, dehe in the body, kor, kom,
Kaumāraṁ,
kaumāram,
Kaumāraṁ.
kaumāram, boyhood, yauvanam, youth, jarā, old age, tathā similarly, deha-antara of transference of the body, prāptiḥ achievement, dhīraḥ the sober, tatra thereupon, na never, muhyati is deluded.
Very good. Priya, can you read the translation, please?
As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change.
Yep. Thank you. So, dehinosmin yathā dehe kaumāraṁ yauvanam jarā. Kaumāraṁ. In Hindi, we still use this word kumar. Kumar means child, son. So dehinosmin yathā dehe. Dehino is the embodied soul. Now, I'll first make this very simplified so that all of us can understand. First question that we must ask ourselves is, just to give you a background of this, Arjuna first, like the setting of Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna is in the battlefield, he's against the Kaurav army, everybody is in front of him, and he instructs Lord Krishna that why don't you take the chariot to the middle of the battlefield so I can see both parties. When he comes in the middle, he sees like the Kaurav army, and suddenly a realization passes through him. He sees that these people that I'm fighting are actually my brothers, my guru Dronacharya, my grandfather Bhishma Pitama. He saw all of them, and suddenly got very emotional. He started getting very affected, and then he almost was unable to fight. He dropped his bow. He was almost in a panic state. He started telling Krishna, who was his friend and his charioteer, he was telling Krishna that I cannot fight this because who will I kill? These are my brothers. This is my guru. If I kill them, how much sin will I accumulate? And what's the point? Even if I win both the kingdoms, what is the point? Will I even be happy? I will. He started like the entire first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is literally that he's just complaining to Krishna that if this happens, what will happen to the soldiers? What will happen to the Kshatriya clan? How much sin will accumulate? I should become a saint. I should go into the hill. All sorts of philosophies he gives Krishna. Now, Krishna, being his charioteer, is actually playing a role of his charioteer. Krishna is actually the supreme personality of Godhead. What is the supreme personality of Godhead? He is the origin source of anything. Anadi Adi. He is like the creation. He is the cause of everything. But out of special favor to his devotees, Arjuna was a very good friend of his, and throughout his life, he was completely devoted to Krishna. He did everything as per God's desire. So, out of his, he's out of his kindness towards his devotee, he took the role of his charioteer as well. Even though Krishna has no business being a charioteer, he is the supreme Lord. However, he takes that role for his devotee. He's ready to become the charioteer for his devotee, and he was also Arjuna's very trusted friend. And likely when we are in a difficult situation, we go to our friends, our best friend, and we share. We all have, right, Abhishek? We have that friend who we go and tell our problems with, right? So he went and he seeked advice from Krishna. Now Krishna, through this entire process, Arjuna actually wasn't bewildered. He was very intelligent person. But Krishna is the supreme controller. So he purposely created this situation so that he could give this knowledge to of Bhagavad Gita. He didn't actually need to give it to Arjuna. He was using Arjuna as the medium to actually give knowledge to all of us. Because in this present age, Kali Yuga, where people are quarrelsome, hypocrites, always mentally disturbed, in this age, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is like light in a dark room. It will show us the way, it will guide us. Otherwise, there's so much darkness and confusion in today's time. As more and more this age progresses, confusion and darkness just increases. But one who reads the Bhagavad Gita is like a lotus flower. Even though he's in a pile of mud, he is unaffected. Like a lotus flower, it's grown in swamp area, but it's unaffected. It's beautifully growing among a swamp. Like that, a person who reads the Bhagavad Gita will be unaffected by the effects of Maya, the effects of this present age, because that's the power of the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So so in this, Krishna breaks down why Arjuna should not lament for his brothers and his guru and all that, because he's saying dehino smin yathā dehe, this embodied soul. So first, Krishna explains to Arjun that you're not even this body, you're actually spirit soul. This body is like a dress. One day you can wear a green jacket, one day you can wear a red jacket. But in reality, that job, if you tear that jacket, it's not like your hand is cut or anything like that. It's just a covering which you can remove. Similarly, we can ask ourselves this question: am I this body even? Because if we notice, like Priya, you might have seen in childhood, you were probably small. We like, I remember when I was small and I was used to go to brush my teeth, I had to take a stool and go because I was so small, I was short. But then slowly I see I'm grown up now. In middle age, in my teenage, I see my photos, I look different. Now I'm grown up, I'm in my mid-20s, I look different. So each passing age, we look different. We'll see other people, they become old, their body is all wrinkly. So this body, we can see clearly, is changing. It's not stable, it's not stagnant. Throughout, it is changing. So that should give us a very good indication that we are not this body. This is our forgetfulness that is causing this distress. Like a lot of people ask, when I tell them that you are not this body, you are a soul, eternal soul, you've been passing from body to body. So this is, what is the proof? Well, how can you tell me that I'm not this body? I feel I'm this body. I know that I'm this body. What is the proof that I was there, existed before this body and existed after this body? And reply to that is, we spend like the first 5 years, like 9 months in our mother's womb. We spend like so much time in a childhood. Do you remember every single detail in your childhood? No, right? But it's not like you didn't exist. Obviously, you had to exist if you were born. So simply, if you forget something, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Think about that one second. If you forget about something, that does not mean it doesn't exist. So Krishna is actually saying that death is not actually the end of a living entity. He said that if you kill Dronachar, if you kill Bhishma Dev, it's not like they're actually going to die. It's just that their body, this covering that they have, they lose that and they'll take a new covering. So just because we forget something, that does not mean that we don't exist. Death is forgetfulness of the previous body. Now, I will talk of this in more detail. At Z, I'm guessing this is Aditri. Aditri, are you there? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, just reached home from work.
Are you in a position to turn on your camera, or do you need some time?
Okay, I'll turn on the camera.
Yeah. If you've just reached, you need like 5-6 minutes, like a couple of minutes, you can take that.
No, I just reached my bed.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you can turn on the camera. Very good. Aditri, can you read from since every living entity? Oh, by the way, we are reading Gita chapter 2, verse 13. So if you have that open, we can start, or else somebody else can read. So can you read till work in life, or you can just read from my screen? You're on mute.
She wants page number, I believe.
Oh, no, I have Nepali. I don't have English.
Okay.
So
You
Oh,
can
it's
read
all
it.
right.
You can
70
read it.
page number, 70.
No, she has it in Nepali. No, not an issue.
I have a Nepalese one.
Oh, you have any place on too?
Yeah. Now, yeah,
Uh,
check the page number 70.
Okay.
yeah, but we need it in English. Priya, can you read the purport?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrate to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoin for their changing body from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body accounts for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life.
Can you actually read that? I just noticed there's only like one sentence in the paragraph end. So just read that last part also till lamentation.
So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation.
Very good. Yep. So we need to understand that the Lord is the source of all energies in this world. So mainly the Lord has three energies. How many? Three.
Okay.
First is the external energy or the inferior energy, which is gross matter. You know, this body, all things that we see around us, this material world is matter. That's God's inferior energy. Then there is God's internal energy or his superior energy. What is that? That's the soul, that's the atma, that's what we are. Actually, we are spirit soul. We're part of God's, originally we are God's superior energy, we are God's spiritual energy. However, us human beings, because we came in contact with material, so we are superior energy or internal energy that's come in contact with matter, or inferior energy. When we come in contact with matter, we become the third category, which is marginal energy. Now, what is marginal energy? Marginal energy means now we are stuck in between the external and the internal. We are stuck in between spirit and matter. So in this material world, we are all given limited freedom of choice. We can make our own decision. God doesn't dictate us. He doesn't force us to do anything. He gives us this option that you can choose what you do. Now, based on what decisions we make, based on what choices we make, we either fall into material energy or spiritual energy. So people who enjoy this, they believe that they are this body, they continuously work very hard to maintain this body. However, there is a law of nature that every living entity has to go through four major issues. What is that? Birth, death, old age, and disease. Everybody, every human, it does not matter if he's from America, India, Australia, Nepal, everybody has to go through these four things at some point of their life. Nobody can save themselves from this, and these are the four problems of life. Now, how does one save themselves from birth, old age? So basically, Abhishek, did the three energies of the Lord make sense? What are the three energies of the Lord? Did you understand?
Uh, I really don't know, to be honest.
So Krishna has three energies.
Yeah.
The internal energy, his external energy, and the marginal energy. So spirit is the internal energy, external energy is matter, and then margin energy is us human beings, because we are stuck in between spirit. We are actually spirit souls, but we are stuck in this body, which is material, which is external. So because of that, we fall into marginal. So we are always switching between the two. We are either sometimes part of his internal energy or external energy. Okay, so these are the three energies of the Lord. Now the Lord is explaining that we actually are part of his superior energy or the spirit soul, and hence he's telling Arjuna that you don't lament for the death of Bhishma or Drona, because they are actually not dead. They're just going to change bodies, they're just going to change their covering. You today you wear a shirt, tomorrow you wear a kurta. you're just changing, but the person is the same. The dress may change, but the owner always remains the same. Correct or not? The
Yep.
dress may change, but the owner is always the same. Similarly, we humans, we are continuously changing bodies. Even in this life, we can see we have changed from boyhood, from youth to old age. We are going to pass, even this body is changing. In fact, scientists say that every second, literally every second of our life, our blood vessels are changing. We are generating new blood cells every second of our life. So literally, our even our body is changing as we speak, but we are not able to notice this because this is happening very subtly. What does subtle mean? Like wind, air, we are breathing it. We know air exists. We wouldn't be alive without air. I'm breathing, I'm able to talk also because of air. Air is so important. However, we can't actually see air. If I say, Priya, how does air look like? You can't see it, but it's there. That is subtle. That means even though it exists, it's so minute that it's not being able to, you can't see it with your eyes. You need to see it with your intelligence. Similarly, changes are also like that. Changes happen very subtly. How do we know this? Because, for example, you have been staying with your parents your entire life. Now your parents won't be able to see that your body is changing because they're growing up, like you're growing up with them, they're seeing you every day. So these subtle changes they're not able to notice. But how many times have you got that experience that some relative comes after a very long time and he says, oh, you become so tall, I remember when you were this small, now look at you, how tall you've become. Why? Because they are able to see the changes. They have seen you after a gap of time, so that subtle change they are able to perceive. However, your parents who have been staying with you all the while, they cannot directly notice these small changes. Like for example, I came back from a trip, so I got tanned, but the people who were with me in the trip, they couldn't even understand. I looked the same to them. But when I came back, people who were seeing me after a long time, like after a month, 2 months, they all said, oh, you look tanned. And I was like, really? And then I looked, even I couldn't realize that I'm getting tanned. So we see these changes happening very subtly. So just because we don't see these changes, that does not mean it doesn't exist. Similarly, it happens with our body. Just because we don't see that our body is changing, that does not mean that it doesn't exist. Our body is changing. We are changing bodies. And Krishna says that based on our desires, we get a body. We can practically see this actually. If you desire, for example, to eat a lot of food, that's your desire. Now, wherever your mind, your body, your intelligence is focused on, you'll certainly get that type of body. Even in this life, you see, if you're really addicted to eating a lot, your mind, energy, body is constantly addicted to eating. What happens? Your body becomes more suitable to allow that kind of food. What happens basically? What does that basically mean? You gain weight, you put on fat, your stomach becomes enlarged, right, to handle that food. Similarly, if you desire to become very fit, you want to go to the gym and all that, your body, mind, intelligence, energy, all is focused towards that. You'll see your body also changes. So your body even in this life is changing based on where your desires are. So similarly, after death also, the kind of desires you have, you are awarded that type of body. Now, is it everybody clear? Anybody has any doubt that we are this body? Anybody has any questions? Aditri, you had your hand raised up.
Oh no, like you mentioned that you went overseas and then you got tan, right?
Yeah,
And I heard that you went to Mahakumbh Mela.
yeah.
So how was the experience? So did you feel
we can talk about that after class because I'm on a short time. I can't tell. I'll tell you after the class. It was very good. But yeah, this I can tell after class. I don't want to take up other people's time. All right. So yeah, we can decide whether we are going to be external energy or internal energy. Now, can somebody read Bhagavad Gita chapter 18.63? Iti te jananam akyatam. Iti te jananam akyatam. 18.63. Whoever gets it open can just directly start reading. Unmute and start reading. Just read the translation. Don't read the whole thing. Just the bold part translation.
Thus, I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully, and then we do what you use and do what you wish to do.
Exactly. So Krishna is not actually controlling us. I mean, even though everything comes from him, he's the supreme controller, he gives us that choice of freedom. So even after the 18th chapter is the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. After explaining the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that I've told you everything, now do as you want. He basically gives Arjuna that freedom of choice, that you do as per you feel like. So that's why we are marginal energy. Now you might ask, how are we marginal? If I'm spirit soul, if I'm not this body, how am I marginal energy? Because when the spirit soul comes in contact with this body, this matter, when we come in contact with matter, we then switch between external and internal energy. If, and the more we indulge in matter, what is matter? Now pleasing this body, sense gratification. I like to, you always, your energy is focused on eating more, or how to sleep properly, or how to indulge in sexual activity. Your body is basically indulge in some sort of sense gratification, how to smoke, how to drink. People who are in this bodily conception of life, in the scriptures it's given, that is animalistic life. So we should avoid being in this bodily conception of life. And human beings, we are always switching. We are either in the bodily conception of life, or when we get knowledge, we come to spiritual. But even then, if we are not steady, if we are not doing our practices steady, we'll fall in between matter and spirit. So we should be very careful to guard ourselves. So what is a person who is very stable in his spiritual life? Is called what? Abhishek, can you read this small paragraph? Actually, read till material nature, this highlighted part.
Till nature.
Yeah.
Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and the nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhīra, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the chance of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable, against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist externally, sanatana, and are called kasara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature.
Yeah.
Is that kasara?
That's shara. So
Shara.
like we say kshatriya, it
Okay.
becomes like that. Yeah. So shara.
Kshatriya.
So
Shara.
yeah. Now we need to understand the position of Krishna. Unfortunately, when we talk about Krishna, most people think he's the flute playing, butter stealing thief. That is just the pastime that he performed. But the actual essence of Krishna, who he actually is, he's the supreme personality of Godhead. He's the source of all creation. So Krishna, he exists as in this, he's spiritual, he's not affected by material world. So he expands himself. So we are fragments of Krishna. So Krishna is a different individual, we are different individuals, but this entire energy, this life body that we have got, is fragments of Krishna. We are part and parcels of Krishna. Okay, so we are basically expansions of God, but we have our individual identity. God has a different individual identity. In that, God also, what he does is he expands himself as super soul or paramatma, which is in our heart. So they say that we actually, the actual you, we are not like Abhishek, Jaiswal, Priya, Akanksha, Aditri, Ayush. These are all names that we have given this material body, this temporary body, but in reality we are not that. Like you might have had a very different dream in which you may not have been Abhishek Desai, you might have been somebody else only. You might have lived a completely different life in your dreams. How many of you have you had that experience? You've had a very crazy dream where you've done something completely different, and then you wake up and you're like, wait, what happened? Your dream body is completely different to this day body. So both of them are actually false identities that we have taken up. These names that we have given us are not reality. What is actually us is this consciousness, this the person who's experiencing this life, that is consciousness. And there is one more person with us, that is Krishna, in the expanded form as Paramatma, who's residing in our heart. However, Krishna, stays neutral. He simply observes our actions. Krishna is very, he doesn't, one thing he protects of his living entities is he always protects their choice of independence. He doesn't interfere in that. He always stays neutral. He's like silently just watching everything happening. So Krishna as the Paramatma, as the fragmental portion, is existing in our heart, and he is noticing everything. He is experiencing everything. So Krishna knows everything about us, things that we even have forgotten ourselves. For example, how many times has this happened in your experience? Like your parents are probably telling you some experience of when you were a baby. They were like, oh, when you were a baby, you used to do this, you were so naughty, you used to eat this type of food. They tell you that story. Is that right? Akanksha, have you had that experience? Your parents tell you this story in that way,
Yes.
but you have no memory of it. But your parents remember it because they were also witnessing that happening. But we have forgotten it because over time, our memory, we lose that memory. We were not aware at that time. Similarly, when we change bodies, we forget it. But Krishna, who's like our supreme parent, who's watching each and every action, he knows this. What is the proof of this? Krishna himself says. So, can somebody read? Sorry, 7.26, Bhagavad Gita chapter 7.26, just again the translation part.
O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all the things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows.
Correct. So here we have the proof. Krishna is himself saying that I know everything. I know the past, present, future. He knows what we have done before. He knows what we are doing right now. He knows what we are going to do in the future. So Krishna is the supreme knower. We cannot trick Krishna. Even if we go to the temple and we pray to Krishna, we cannot lie to Krishna because Krishna is in your heart. So even the intentions and the thoughts that you have, he knows that. So that we have to be literally naked in front of Krishna. Like naked in the sense we have to not be duplicitous. We have to be very open and frank with Krishna. We have to be direct because we cannot lie to Krishna. There's nothing that can be hidden from him. Krishna knows everything. And based on our desires, Krishna is noting our desires, and everything that we do in this life needs the stamp of Krishna because he's the proprietor means what? He's the owner. For example, you're taking a friend's car. He's the proprietor of the car, so you have to take permission of your friend that, hey, can I borrow your car? Similarly, if your friend says no, I don't want to give you the car, you cannot do anything. Similarly, if any decision, any action want to take, we need to take Krishna's permission. So we cannot change bodies as per our own will. Krishna has to give that seal of approval that, okay, you have done this action, based on that you get this body. So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and he is the supreme sanctioner. He gives us the sanction. A dhīra, like I was talking in the previous point, dhīra is a individual soul who has perfect knowledge about who he actually is. He is not in this bodily conception of life. What is this bodily conception of life? People are constantly stuck in four things, which is, as per our shastras also it's given, which is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These are the four things. Now, what are these? If we see an animal, how many of you have seen Animal Planet or any animal in childhood? Have you seen those animal documentaries, like where they wild nature, something like that, zoo in Africa, something like that? What happens in most of them? You'll see either some animal who's eating, like a lion will be hunting the deer, or some elephant will be eating grass, something like that. It's either eating or it's sleeping. A bear sleeps for 6 months straight. Every animal sleeps a very large time. So they are, all animals are doing these four things: eating, sleeping, mating. Mating is what? Indulging in sexual activity. They are, and if you see like monkeys, they're all, I went to Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, the monkeys, all the, anywhere you look, they're in the tree, they're mating in that. That's the animal tendency. They're always so eating, sleeping, mating, and lastly defending. Now, what is defending? Defending means protecting this identity. Like for example, a dog, you'll see what dogs do is, especially I think in Nepal also it's true, you'll have a lot of street dogs. You guys have street dogs in Nepal? Yeah. So what do street dogs do? They will pick a particular lane, gully. They will urinate over there, and it's marking their territory, like this is my territory. Anybody else comes, they bark at them, they shout at them. What is that? Defense. Defense is protecting it. They are acquiring land, territory. Now, if we notice, we humans also are doing these four things only. We are just doing it with higher intelligence. We are eating, but like an animal needs to hunt and all that. We already have everything. Everything is very easy for us because through our intelligence, we have made everything very systematic. Sleeping, mating, defense. What is defense for humans? People who are all the time real estate, property, how can I acquire more? Defense means what? We are defending our identity, our false ego, we are defending. So how can I get a higher position in my job? How can I, my wife, my family, my children? We are always stuck in that. You'll see people are always stuck in that loop. So that is animal conceptual. Why does that happen? Because we are identified with this body. We believe that we are this body, and when we are in this body, we come into animal conception of life. We are called muda is what? Fools. We are fools because we are believing something which is uh, temporary, but we think that is permanent. We think that we are in this body forever, but that's not true. This body has to go one day. But people who are too attached to their body, they're in this bodily conception of life. They spend their entire time trying to maintain the body, but it's never possible. Our real goal, and that is like, most people have those goals only. If you see any goal or desire they have, it's for these four things: how can I eat, how can I sleep, how can I defend my dad, how can I procreate. So that is the four things. A real intelligent person, a dhīra, which is given sober means what? Somebody who's intelligent, somebody who has real knowledge. He realizes he won't bother too much about this temporary body because he knows he is eternal. The soul is never going to die. The soul is just going to pass body after body. So a real intelligent person, his actual goal is, how can I make sure how can I, he plans for death. Where will the soul go after death? That is what real intelligence is. Based on our desires, like I said beginning, even in this life and even in the next life, we get a particular body. People who are too stuck in animal conception of life, in this bodily conception of life, who spend their entire life just satisfying their senses and this body, they get an awarded an animal life because it gives you a more suitable body. Like for example, if you have to go from here to Europe, there is ocean in the middle. You can't take a cycle and you go there. You need a particular suitable mode of transport to fulfill your desire. Similarly, if you have those particular desires, animalistic desires, you get an animalistic body. Somebody used to busy eating, they'll say, why do you want to waste this human life? This human life is given higher intelligence to understand the essence of soul and what is beyond the soul. That is the purpose of human life. But if you want to stay in this animal life, you get awarded an animalistic body. So an intelligent person, a dhīra, knows that I am permanent, I'm and always good, I'm eternal. Spirit soul is eternal, it cannot be destroyed. So Krishna knows is telling Arjuna that don't worry about these fall. Stop identifying with your body. Why was Arjuna worried that Bhishma or Drona, these people should not die? Why? Because he was identifying with his body. He said, I am Arjuna. This is my guru, Dronacharya. Of this body, this is my grandfather Bhishma. He was, all these were bodily relationships. But Krishna was trying to explain to Arjun that these were actually their spirit soul. They are going to pass on. They're just going to change from one covering to another, and according to their work of life, they're going to get a body. So he said Bhishma and Drona. Bhishma was a very pious person. He was Ganga Putra. Dronacharya was again a very pious and a very powerful guru. So he said they were very noble souls, and they were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment in material existence. So till now, everything is clear. Anybody has any doubts? Anything was unclear to anybody? Aditri, you raised your hand again.
Sorry, I keep raising my hands. What do you reckon? What do you think a dhīra, I mean, the person who is dhīra would react if someone from his so if someone from his family died, for instance, like mother,
Very good question.
like will he feel sad or no?
Correct. Very good question. This is actually a very interesting question. So, like Krishna is saying that dhīra, a person who's sober, intelligent person, does not get too affected, is not bewildered. What does bewildered mean? Not affected by these changes. So basically, Krishna is saying that you should know that the soul is eternal. Soul is going to change body. So don't be too affected. Don't get too emotionally affected by this. He's telling Arjuna that they are going to die, but they're actually going to pass on to a new body. So don't get affected. But now you might ask that, does that mean that if I lose a loved one or something like that happens, somebody loses their body, should I be insensitive? Should I say, oh, they're not actually dead, they've just changed body, so you're not really affected? No, that's not true. And how would you know the proof of this? After the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains everything to Arjuna. After that, when his son Abhimanyu dies, Arjun is actually lamenting, even though the entire knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun understands. Within like 45 minutes, the entire knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, he's so intelligent, he can understand everything. He knows and he understands that all of what he's saying is true, and he's able to consciously understand that. But even after knowing that the soul is eternal and he's just changed body to body, still after the death of his son Abhimanyu, he cries, he's lamenting, he's very upset, he's very affected. And Krishna, he doesn't go to Arjuna saying, oh, you fool, after telling you that the soul is eternal, you're still crying. What kind of a fool you are? You didn't understand anything. He doesn't say that. He actually goes and consoles Arjuna. He tries to give him some reassurance, comfort to him. Because what an intelligent person does is, we are not telling you to be indifferent. We're not telling you to be insensitive. It's not like somebody dies, you're not affected. We have these thoughts, we have these feelings, we have emotions, we have relationships which we have built. It's not like just because I know that my parents are eternal, I'm not going to be affected if something happens to them. It's we have that emotion, and it's not wrong to show that emotion. But Krishna, and what an intelligent person does is, he is affected in a emotional state for a temporary period, but he's not completely, his world is not shattered, because he knows deep down, in because that the natural feelings are obviously there. If you see somebody who's a loved one affected, obviously you're going to lament, you're going to feel sad. But deep down, you also know the supreme truth, which is that I am not permanent, the other person is not permanent, everybody is a soul who's going to pass from body to body. So we, our life is not shattered. Like Arjun, he was ready to leave the war, leave all his response, put entire life, whatever things he did for in his life, he was ready to just throw it away when he saw that I'm going to be like I'm going to kill my relatives, there's going to be death, they're going to lose body. So he was lamenting, but he was lamenting for a wrong reason. He was thinking that like this body is permanent, so if I kill them, they're permanently going to exist. Now, Krishna says it's not wrong to feel bad that they're going to die. Obviously, it's going to affect you if they're related to you. However, don't neglect your responsibilities. Don't completely throw down everything and think that's the end, because that's not the end. The truth is, they're spirit soul and they're going to pass from body to body. So we are not telling you to be insensitive or inconsiderate. Obviously, it's natural to have emotions and feelings. However, we should understand the deep down truth is we are all eternal souls. And to give consolement to people also, we need to try to do betterment in that way. Like, for example, if you are a real person, if you really care for somebody, you will not make sure that their body is fine, you'll make sure that their spirit is fine. You look after their spirit. How do we do that? Like your parents, they, you might enjoy eating pizza, but your parent, just because your parents probably know that you like eating pizza, but just because you like eating pizza, they won't get like 500 pizzas and say, oh, my son likes this gives my son happiness, so let him eat as many pizzas. No, they are protecting your spirit. They know that if he eats too much, he's going to have problems. So what I mean by this is, a person as actually looking for something bigger. Like your parents may shout at you, they may beat you also sometimes, but why is that? They're trying, if you do something wrong. Like I remember one of my friends, he had stolen something from school. He had stolen like a I don't know, like a toy. We were all small kids, and he'd stolen a toy, and his parents saw that he had a new toy at home. They said, we never bought this, why, where have you got this toy? And he then finally confessed that I've stolen it, and his parents were furious. They were shouting at him. And I think in Nepal also it's very common. Like in India, we used to get hit as a child. It was not like a big thing. It was as a disciplinary action. So his parents hit him. But that does not mean they don't care about him. They don't love him. They're hitting him out of hatred. They're not hitting him out of hatred. They are protecting not his body. They're protecting his character, his soul. Because if he gets into the habit of that, he's going to pick up that habit of stealing. In the future, today he's stealing toys. Tomorrow he'll steal money. That will become his nature. So they try to protect his nature. So Krishna is saying, don't emotions are normal. Obviously, you're going to feel upset, but don't let it affect your nature. Know deep down what the actual truth is, that we are actually spirit souls and we're going to pass from body to body. And hence, we should also try to help other people's nature. If we have a friend who's struggling, don't try to protect the body. Like I've seen a lot of people in college, what they do, when somebody is going through a hard time, they say, oh, let's drink, let's smoke, let's chill, yeah, let's party, so that the person he's feels better. But a real friend will protect the spirit. What we should know is that the spirit is eternal. If he if we as friends are trying to tell him that you do sense gratification, you enjoy in some sense indulgence, we are actually spoiling him. We are not doing any favor to him. He's not going to suddenly his life change. He'll not pick up those habits. We should make sure that we protect his spirit, so that at the time of death also his spirit is focused, his mind, body, intelligence is focused in the correct thing, which is Krishna. So if you see a friend going through hard times, tell them to chant, tell them to read Bhagavad Gita, tell them how much it changed your life and how it is good for you. That is actually caring for the person. So even loved ones, it's not like we say, oh, like a lot of people. I'm telling you an incident. One devotee was going through. His father was very unwell, and his son was like a devotee. He was a brahmachari, so he was staying in the ashram. And when the father was terminated, he had got cancer. So the doctor told him, you have only like 3 months to live. Now everybody who was around him was just showing him bodily sympathy. Oh, I feel so bad for you. Oh, they've started crying, all of that. Now when the son came to know about, the son was a spirit, like he was spiritually knowledge, he was a dhira, he was an intelligent person. He knew that it's not like he didn't care that his father was going to die. He knew what would actually help his father. So while everybody around his father, like all the relatives and all, they were crying and saying, oh, I feel so bad for you, and shedding tears and not really helping him, the son came and he explained him that the soul, he explained the science of the soul. He read the Bhagavad Gita to his father in his last days. He got his father to do japa, and his father understood that I'm actually eternal soul, that I'm going to pass from body to body, and if I'm able to concentrate my mind on Krishna, at the time of death, I can attain Krishna, which we'll get into later on. And his father at the time of death, like when people asked him, how are you feeling? He said, for 3 months when I was told that I'm going to die, everybody who I loved and cared about, like all my relatives and my so-called family relations, they didn't really help me. They all sobbed and cried and all that, but they weren't actually helping me. They were just worried about my body. They were like, you putting flowers around my bed and decorating and giving me good food, but none of that was actually saving me. But my son, he was protecting my spirit. He, even though it was affecting him, he was seeing it in a bigger perspective, in a larger lens. He knew that I need to protect the spirit. So my son gave me such beautiful knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Beautiful. He taught me japa, which has completely transformed my life. That now, even though death has come, I'm not afraid of it, because my son has helped me prepare for death. Which gets me to my next point. The real intelligent person, the dhira, prepares for his death. Now, Krishna tells us that where our desires are, we get that particular type of body. So people who are interested in bodily gratification, they get animalistic type of body or hellish planet. If you've committed sinful activities, as per the Gita, you get hellish planets. You go to hell basically. And similarly, if you have done pious activities, good activities, there is heavenly planets. So now we see that scientists are going to the moon, right? But in the scriptures, it said that if one performs pious activities, karma kanda activities for good benefit, he then actually gets a body suitable to stay in the moon. The moon is also a planet. Moon is a heavenly planet. It's written in our scriptures. And people who perform pious activities, they get a suitable body to stay in the moon. You can't stay in this body, like in this body. This body is also made out of earth. What are the 5 elements of this body? Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the elements from which this body is made up. So this body is suitable to stay on earth, but if we go to the moon, we need a body suitable to stay on the moon planet. So based on our activities, we get heavenly planets. So that's what Krishna is telling about Bhishma and Drona, that they will get heavenly planets. We right now are very proud that, oh, we went to the moon and we've put a flag, but what are we actually doing? We have just put a flag. We are not even able to stay over there. It's like, for example, I want to go to America. I can't take my car and go to America, right? I need a particular suitable transfer. I need to take a plane which is correct to the right transport to go to America. Similarly, we can't, using this this body forcibly enter. Like you want to go to America, you can't just decide I will just fly somehow enter America. We need passport, we need visa, we need qualifications. So basically, for entering higher planetary system or getting a particular body, we need some sort of qualification. So for each heavenly planet given in the Vedas, there are particular ways where we can achieve these higher planets. There are methods to achieve it. People actually do. They perform all sorts of yagnas, and there's a particular time of yogis can do that. They can go to higher heavenly planets. However, even that is not permanent, because in heavenly planets also, that is also material, that is also part of Krishna's inferior nature, inferior in that. So in heavenly planets, the life is longer, the sense enjoyment is much more. You can enjoy, it's written over here, at least in the they can get heavenly bodies for supreme enjoyment of material existence. So in heavenly planets right now, what enjoyment we get, 1,000 times more is in the heavenly planets, but that is also temporary. So as long as you perform good pious activities, you've done particular things, you will enjoy that. But when your time is over, when your credit is over, immediately you're coming back to this earth planet. So what is permanent then? A dhira, an intelligent person, thinks, so how do I stop death? He's worried about, sir, making more money, getting a higher position in my job is not serving my long term purpose. How do I stop birth, old age, disease, and death? How do I stop that? How do I get a permanent life? Right, Abhishek? If you are enjoying, wouldn't you want to enjoy for eternity? Why do you want to enjoy for a limited period? Why? What's the point of enjoyment if it's going to start and end at a particular time? Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so if you're enjoying something and you're in a really good mood, everything is nice, but everything in this world is temporary. So is it actually serving the purpose if you're enjoying, but it's going to be just for a short while? Like for example, I'll give you an easier example. If I give you a very tasty chocolate, and you I say you can't eat the chocolate, you can just smell it. Does that going to, like, I get a very tasty food dish cooked, a favorite dish cooked in front of you, I put it in front of you, but I say you can't eat this, you can just smell it. Is that would you call that enjoyment? Would you say that I
Mm,
enjoyed that pizza? Correct, right? You don't. Why? Because you're not getting the full essence of it. Similarly, in this material existence, it's not permanent, everything is temporary. This body, the enjoyment that's there in this material world, all of them are temporary. Nobody can enjoy for eternity, everybody has to die. So an intelligent person thinks, how do I exist for eternity? How do I exist? Eternity means unlimited, there's no end to it. You're constantly in a blissful state. Wouldn't you like that, Abhishek? Would you like to be constantly in a blissful state, or up and down? Sometimes you're happy, some days you're sad.
I really want to go with the second option. Sometimes okay, sometimes bad, because it makes you feel okay. Was the precious like uh, I'm not getting the word, to be honest. Like, but
No,
it
no. So
makes you feel that yes,
no, I get what you're
this-
saying, but
yeah.
see, understand my point. Wouldn't we like to be intelligence is being eternal, looking for eternal life? Otherwise we work so hard for all of this. Imagine you've accumulated everything, and then after that, just when you think you're able to enjoy, you die. Then will you call that enjoyment? Will you say that this is a successful life? You work very hard whole day. Supposing you were buying a new shoe, you save a lot of money to buy the new shoe. Just when you're about to buy the shoe, you somebody tells you that shoe is sold out. Will you be happy?
No.
Exactly. So my point over here is, this material world is temporary. Okay, these bodies also, these material bodies are temporary. Even the heavenly planets which I was talking about, they are also temporary. So uh, a real intelligent person, a dhira, see, dhīras tatra na muhyanti. Dhīras, intelligent, sober person is not affected by the death of the body. That means he is looking for a permanent solution. He's not looking for a temporary fix. For example, Abhishek, if there is some dirt in the ground, will you, would you just, will you clean it? Will you pick it up and throw it in the dustbin, or will you just put a napkin over it and say it doesn't exist? What is
No,
actually
we have to clean it.
clean it? Exactly. So right now, people who are in this material conception, in this bodily conception, they're looking for temporary success. How can I satisfy my tongue by eating? How can I satisfy myself by indulging in sex? How can I sleep better, intoxicate myself? Everybody's stuck in temporary consciousness.
They just
But
want the temporary solution.
huh?
They just
Yeah,
want
looking for a
temporary solution, not the
yeah,
permanent one.
yeah, they're looking for
Because
a
the
temporary
permanent one gets
resolution.
hurt more than
Yes, correct. So as much as you try, like one, I saw one. Have you heard of Ambani, Dhirubhai Ambani? Yes. So Dhirubhai Ambani was so rich, he had accumulated so much money. But one person was giving an instance that I was attending Dhirubhai Ambani's funeral, and his body, it burned for like 20 minutes and then it was ending. And he was saying after that, I was thinking that he spent his entire life trying to accumulate so much wealth, millions, billions of dollars, creating so many industries, buying so many houses. But all of that in 20 minutes it got ended, that entire body ended. So what was the point? So my point is trying to say that don't look for temporary resolutions, look for permanent. And in the Bhagavad Gita, what is Krishna saying? What an intelligent person actually knows as permanent is, how can I stop birth, death, disease, and old age? If we see, everybody is scared of death. If we, even an ant, like if you, how many times have you seen an ant will be walking on the floor, if you put your hand on it, it will suddenly turn. Have you done that in childhood? Ant will be walking on the floor, you put your hand, it will turn its direction, you put your hand again, it will turn. We play around like that. So you can see even an ant is afraid of death, it doesn't want to die. And in the scriptures it's given, why? Because the process of birth is so painful. We think that birth is very nice and we're comfortably in the mother's womb, but the process of birth is so painful that the soul wants to avoid that. A soul has its actual intelligence, and the soul knows the pain that it's gone through for being born, coming in, taking up a body. This process of taking a body is very stressful, it's very troublesome to the soul. So the soul is actually afraid of death, because they say at the time of death it's equal to be bitten by 10,000 scorpions at the same time. I don't know if you've ever been bitten by even one scorpion, but I can tell you it's not a very fun thing. Imagine 10,000 of them, really painful. So the soul actually knows that this death and birth, all of this is very painful. Even disease, we see people who are suffering through disease, so much stress they have to go through, so much pain they have to go through. So a person who's intelligent thinks, how can I solve these permanent problems? How can I stop this birth, death, old age, and disease? And that is seen when Krishna says that you need to, from temporary, look at permanent. He's saying from matter. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Sorry,
Krishna.
I think I disconnected for a second. Yeah. Am I audible? Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry. I don't know what happened, some network issue. Okay, I'll just play this again. Yeah. So from temporary, we look at permanent. Now, death is going to be same for like a lot of you might say that what is why are you saying that there's a permanent intelligence is stopping death? Death is going to happen for everybody. Even a person who's very sinful is going to die, a person who's very pious is going to die, correct? Everybody is going to die. Anybody disagrees? So you might say that at the time of death everybody is going to go through that pain. So why are you telling me that I need to be using my intelligence and putting so much of my energy into working on how to plan for my death? But I can give you a good example for this. If you see a cat when it has to a small kitten, when it's given birth to a small kitten, for helping the kitten to travel around it, the cat holds the kitten in her mouth, and she travels. Have you seen that? The cat will hold the kitten in her mouth and walk. So that is one. And then the cat, when it wants to kill a mouse, it will bite the mouse, it will put the mouse in its teeth, and it will walk. So now can you say that the feeling that the kitten is getting and the mouse is getting is the same? Even though you will say both of them are in the cat's mouth, but the kitten is feeling comfort that I'm in my mother's arms right now, I mean my mother is taking care of me. But the mouse is feeling death, it can feel death, it's very painful. Similarly, Krishna is saying that if one who takes endeavors into understanding me, who puts his mind and intelligence upon me, then he comes back to me. So we are right now marginal energy, that means we are in this contamination of matter. We are stuck in matter. But once we put our energies towards Krishna, who's spiritual, we will go get our original spiritual body, our actual body. Jiva Swarup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das. Original identity of human being is he is part and parcel of Krishna. So at the time of death, if we can remember Krishna, no doubt we go back to Krishna. So that's why a person who's a dhīra, who's an intelligent person, has spend his entire time trying to understand what the super soul is, and then he's understands how I can go back to Godhead, how can I go back to my real position, back home, back to Godhead. Back home means what? The position, the actual source of the soul is Krishna. So when we go back to our father, when we go back to Krishna, that is our actual home, that's our original position. And once when somebody comes back to Krishna, he is never born again, he's never taken a material life, he's not going to suffer birth, death, old age and disease, because the spiritual world is eternal. We can see this. Krishna gives a proof of this. Like, for example, you might say, how do we even know Krishna is permanent? You know, in the Bhagavad Gita, only at the after the Mahabharata, he himself died. So how can you say Krishna is the alive, permanent? So Abhishek, can you read Bhagavad Gita 4.1, chapter 4, verse 1?
Just
Yeah. Yeah, Aditri, meanwhile, you can tell me what doubt you have. Aditri, do you have a doubt? Raise your hand.
Wait, are you gonna read?
Sorry?
Oh no, like you mentioned that once we go to Krishna, we don't come back, right?
Yeah.
And what if again free will comes into play?
No, so free will comes because of illusion. This material world is controlled by illusionary energy or Maya. So under this Maya or this illusionary energy, we take up false identities. We start believing in this body. For example, a director is directing a movie. In the stage, everybody is taken up a role. One person might be a hero, one person might be a villain. So a person who's in Maya is basically trying to say that even outside the stage, he thinks that I'm this villain only. Imagine in the movie, he's killing people. And then outside the stage, also, when the director says cut, everybody goes back to their original person. They forget that they are that character and they go back to being who they actually are. But when we are under illusion, we are so attached with that false character that we have taken up this false. Right now, all of us are taking up particular character. You have taken the character of Aditya, I've taken the character of Ayu. We have put false titles and identities on us. But when the director says cut, all the actors go back to their original position. Like Shah Rukh Khan will be, in the movie he might play a role. After the director says cut, he's again Shah Rukh Khan. He lives his life normally as he's supposed to. Similarly, when we are taken back to our original position, original spiritual identity, we're no longer in illusion. We don't identify with that character. Then we are in our original position. And once we are in our original position, there's no doubt, there's no free, like our, we understand our willing, we understand our original position as part and parcel of Krishna. Then that illusion doesn't come. Right now that illusion comes because this world is controlled by Maya, and under Maya, you believe that you're Aditya, I believe I'm Ayush, she believes he's Abhishek. And we take a particular, I am Nepali, I am Indian, I am American. We put up all these false identities. But in reality, we are all parts and parcels of Krishna. Abhishek, can you read 4.1?
Cause like
4.1.
some
Sorry?
4.1. Are
Yeah.
you gonna read? Oh, sorry.
You gonna
Maybe
read?
I'll ask
Sorry.
later on. No. No, I don't want to read. I had a question. The
Okay.
other one.
We can just
Thank you.
Aditri, at the end
Yeah.
of the class, you can quickly ask me because I'm also running out of time. It's close. So yeah, can you quickly read that Abhishek? 4.1.
My Sanskrit will be a little bit up and down. Please
No. Just read
consider.
the translation. Or you have it
Oh,
in
just read the
Nepali.
Oh, I have the Indian. Sorry, I have the Indian sculpture. Matlab,
Okay. Priya,
Indian
can
written.
you
Is that
can you
okay?
read the translation in English or just the translation? Bhagavad Gita chapter 4.1.
4.1.
Yeah.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed these imperceivable signs of yoga to the sun god, Vivaswan. And Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Skabo.
Yeah. So Krishna is telling Arjun that this Bhagavad Gita, which I'm telling you now, Bhagavad Gita was told 5,000 years ago by Krishna to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Krishna is telling Arjuna that the same Bhagavad Gita 40 million years ago I've told this to the sun god. That means Krishna has been existing eternally. Krishna is not material. He doesn't pass through bodies and bodies. He is completely spiritual. He's completely transcendental. Transcendental means what? Beyond this material world. So he is eternal. He existed 40,000 years ago, 40 million years ago, and he gave the same knowledge to the sun god. So we know that Krishna is eternal. Krishna is not changing, and we as parts and parcels of Krishna also are eternal. However, we, due to contact of material nature, we are staying there. Like for example, a child might be like your parents might have dropped you to your have you ever gone to that? In the malls there'll be like a playing ground for children, like a pit. They'll make like a like small pit area for, there'll be a ball pool and all. Have you seen that? So a parent who like a lot of parents, what they do is when they're traveling or something, they leave their kid in that pit. Like it's a closed area and they have like a maze and pit, it's a child playground. They leave them in that, and when they are done with their work, they come and collect the child. So now, if the child is, now the child knows that he is the child of his parent. If the parent leaves the child in that pit, the child loves the pit so much that he forgets about his parents and he's over there only. But that does not mean that the child belongs to the pit. His actual original position is with the parent. It's just that he is so entangled in that playing ground right now that he's forgotten his original position, that he has a home and he has parent. So same with us. We are actually parts and parcels of Krishna. We are the children of Krishna, the children of God. But when we come in contact with material nature, because of our desire to enjoy this material nature, we completely forget about our position with Krishna, and we foolishly try to enjoy. And in reality, this material world is called dukkhalayam ashashvatam, which means a place of misery and a temporary place of misery. We can see this practically. You can never actually be happy, because every enjoyment that you have in this material world is also illusion. It's false. We have falsely created, and it's temporary. It's nothing is created. A person who's drinking alcohol might at the moment think that he's enjoying a lot, but it's temporary. Within few hours his thing comes out and then he's again depressed, he's hungover. So everything in this material world is temporary, and our real enjoyment, our real happiness lies with Krishna when we go back to Krishna. So we are right now unfortunately stuck over here. And a real intelligent person, he's not affected by the change of his body. Like for example, Abhishek, supposing you shave your beard and then in few days you see hair will come out, right? In few weeks, if you after shaving, hair will come out naturally, your hair will grow. Will you get too shocked and surprised? Oh my god, hair, how did this hair come? How am I growing? Will that happen? No, because we are not bewildered. We know that this change is naturally going to happen. So similarly, a dhīra, an intelligent person, is not affected by such type of change. Just like a person, when they see the hair is growing or their body is growing, they're not shocked, they're not bewildered. Similarly, intelligent person not bewildered by change of body. He has prepared his entire life in such a way that he knows at the time of death where he is going to go. And what is the formula? Either we can spend our entire life foolishly wasting our time on bodily gratification, how to eat, sleep, mate, and defend, or else we can save ourselves by the proof, and the solution is given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4.9. One who knows my transcendental nature and activities. And Aditri, this answers your question. One who knows my transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. O Arjuna. Eternal means what? Abhishek, what does eternal mean?
eternal हिंदी में कैसे?
Permanent.
Yeah,
हिंदी में बोलेंगे कि अनंत, correct?
अनंत,
Which is never ending.
अनादिकाल तक.
Anadika. So Krishna's abode is eternal. For example, like I give that example, the child is put in a playground. Now that playground is not his permanent place. The mother pays like usually in the malls and all that, you have to pay by the hour. So mother says that okay, for 1 hour I'm buying a ticket. She puts the child in that, but the child is not permanently in that. Eventually he goes back home, where that is his permanent place. Playground is only temporary, where the child is trying to enjoy. Similarly, this material world, this world that we are right now in, which is called bhuloka, is where it's for temporary enjoyment, so-called enjoyment. There's no actual enjoyment over here. It's all illusion. Maya is making us think that we are enjoying, because we're not even this body. So every action that we're doing to please this body is actually illusion, because if we are not that body, then what are we actually trying to please? So Krishna is saying that one, read this, let's read this again. One who knows my transcendental nature and appearance. A lot of fools tell me that, oh, Krishna was just another human being. He played flute, stole butter, had ras leela with gopis and all. But actually we don't understand who Krishna is really. Krishna is the supreme personality of God. Everything that he did was transcendental. Each and every activity, like him doing his pastimes with Yashodama. Yashodama was not an ordinary person. She was a devotee, and devotee spends their entire life serving Krishna. They get enjoyment serving Krishna. That's actually how we can enjoy in this world, by serving Krishna, by doing some sort of service for Krishna, by pleasing Krishna. We get pleased. How do we know this? For example, there's a tree. If you want to water the tree, you will not put water all over the tree. You'll just pour the roots. Just by pouring water on the roots, the entire tree is satisfied. Similarly, just by pleasing Krishna, we are naturally satisfied, because we are part of Krishna. So Krishna is saying, once you understand the nature of my appearance and activities, upon leaving the body, he never takes birth in this material world and attains my abode. That is why we are putting so much stress in chanting and reading books. That's why Prabhupada said, chant and read Bhagavad Gita. Why are we doing this? We are not fools that we are wasting so much time for Wednesday evening to do this. This is because when we do this, our mind, our intelligence naturally is fixed on Krishna. And once somebody understands Krishna, the more and more we understand God, then we understand our own real identity, and then we can go back to God. That is how we are preparing for that. That's what an intelligent person is supposed to do. Otherwise, fools, if we see, like I gave that cat and mouse example. Cat is holding kitten in the mouth. The kitten is very nice and comfortable. Holding a mouse in the mouth, mouse is in pain. The cat is going to kill it. Similarly, a very sinful person who has spent their entire life in this world just trying to enjoy sense gratification, gambling, sex, or drinking, eating whatever they feel like, eating meat, just without thinking about anything or the consequences, just doing actions. They at the time of death, these people cry, they're suffering a lot. Krishna himself says, these people who are demoniac tendencies, who are always spend their entire life doing sinful activities, animalistic lifestyle, trying to please the body, they at the time of death are really in pain, like the mouse in the mouth of the cat. But a person who is a dhira, who's an intelligent person, who's my devotee, who's a bhakta, he knows my transcendental nature. And then at the time of death, we know that we are going to go back to Krishna, so we are not affected. Krishna himself says that the last word that you say at the time of death, the last thought that you have at the time of death, will decide your next body. So at the time of death, if we can think about Krishna, if we can chant Krishna's name, we will go back to Krishna. Do you guys know Mahatma Gandhi? Obviously, you guys would know Mahatma Gandhi, right? Gandhi? Abhishek, you know Mahatma Gandhi, right? So Mahatma Gandhi, it's written like where he was buried. The last words that Mahatma Gandhi uttered at the time of
Hey
his
Ram,
death was Ram, Hey Ram, Hey Ram.
hey Ram.
Yes. So even Mahatma Gandhi was such a elevated person. Even that person knew the science behind transmigrating of the soul. The soul just passes from body to body, and if one wants to stop this repeated birth and death, he fixes his mind on Krishna. By fixing his mind on Krishna, by putting his mind, body, intelligence, all his activities and energy for Krishna, he at the time of death attains Krishna. And once he attains Krishna, there's no coming back. So Aditri, you asked me that once if we go to Krishna, will we again, is there any free will and all that? No, because once we come to Krishna, we are no longer in illusion. We are no longer affected by Maya. Maya is only in this material world. Krishna is spiritual. So once we go to the spiritual planet, once we understand our original position, then we are no longer affected by Maya. Once the director says cut, the actors don't again believe that I am this villain and I'm the hero. They go back to their normal self. Similarly, we go back to our original position. Okay, so I think we should conclude over here. This is because we're almost at 8 o'clock. I hope this understood, like made sense. Does anybody have any questions, any doubts?
I mean, you mentioned earlier that we were with Krishna, right? And then
Yeah.
after free will came, and then we came here. And again, if we go, then this time free will is not gonna be there.
Okay, so this time if we go, usually this entire material life also is deliberately made for a lot of suffering. There's a lot of suffering in material life, and people might say that why is Krishna making me suffer so much in this material life? Why is he putting me through so much stress, so much struggle? And the reason is so that we can, by going through this material life, we get the intelligence that our original position is with Krishna. So the at the time of the passage of the soul goes through so much turmoil that at the end the person is frustrated. He's frustrated with material life. He said, I have drank a lot, I have eaten a lot, I've done all these type of pleasures, I'm not getting isme sukh nahi hai, I'm not getting happiness in this. And how do I actually get happiness? Then they when they serve Krishna, they actually understand. And I think anybody who comes to the temple, you'll actually get this experience. When you do some service not for yourself but you do it for Krishna, you get that joy which you can't explain in words. You'll feel very happy, and atma shanti we say. You'll feel inside very peaceful. You'll have some sort of state of mind will be very peaceful. Why? Because that is where our actual enjoyment is. Just from that we should understand that serving Krishna is where our actual happiness lies. So once we understand that, like for example, Aditri, I'll give you easier example. If you're driving a car which is very broken, like half the things don't work, the mirror is broken, this that, and I come to you and I say, Aditri, why are you driving that broken pathetic car? You should take this, and I give you a very nice Rolls Royce fancy. Will you then feel like driving the old car?
So, like, from what I understood, maybe is
No,
sorry.
first you answer this. If you are driving a very broken car and then I give you a Rolls Royce, will you feel like driving the broken car again?
No,
Exactly. So to answer your question, this material life is deliberately made so that we realize that there's no true joy in this. The more and more we try to enjoy this, we are actually getting more and more entangled in this. We're getting stuck in this. And because of that, we are causing all our sufferings. But once we realize that the higher taste is in Krishna, then naturally we lose taste for all these cheap pleasures. All these material pleasures are considered very low in front of the pleasures that are offered by Krishna. These material pleasures in this material world, the what we are think is pleasure. I can go and go to a club, go and have drink, enjoy this, get this position, make this much money. All of them are compared to broken pieces of glass. And the pleasures that Krishna can give you by serving Krishna is compared to shining jewels. So that's the comparison. And once we get that taste, we'll naturally lose our taste. So then, I mean, free will is obviously there, Aditri. It's not like Krishna will control us. We are not robots that will be controlled. Krishna is like a father-son relationship. A son is not Father cannot control each and every action of the son, but the father controls the environment. So the father purposely, if the son wants to enjoy, he'll purposely make the environment so that we realize that this is actually not our permanent position, and then we go back. Free will is still there, but once somebody reaches Krishna's abode, somebody understands Krishna as a supreme father and is in that realization, goes back to Krishna abode, then his actual free will is used for the service of Krishna. If you see everybody in Vrindavan was compared to the spiritual world, replica of the spiritual world in earth. So in Vrindavan, everybody's free will is used for pleasure of Krishna. The gopis are thinking, how can we make Krishna happy? Mother Yashoda is thinking, how can I cook for Krishna so that he is happy? Radharani is making garlands so that Krishna is happy. The cowherd boys are making Krishna happy. We think of all of this like regular human activities, like a normal person who's a cowherd boy, but actually Krishna is trying to show the relationship of him and his pure devotees, that how his devotees, people who are actually intelligent, are constantly engaged in his in service of him, and in his service we naturally get happy. Like a mother who's looking after the child, she cooks a lot of good food for the child. Even though she is not eating it, the child is eating it, she feels very happy that, oh, I fed my child is feeling very happy, and that she is taking care of the child and the child is feeling happy. So does that make sense, Aditri, or you still have any doubt?
no, it does.
Yeah. Abhishek, make sense, or is there any part which was confusing for you?
Not at all.
Understood? Priya, Akanksha. Priya, can you turn on your camera? Akanksha, camera. Can you quickly tell me? And Aditri also camera. Can you tell me if any questions, any doubts, any part that you found confusing or anything you would like to correct?
No, all good for today.
All good. Akanksha, all
Yeah.
good. All good. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you very much. So, lastly, before I'll just quickly ask you guys, can you give me all one point that a keynote that you took away from this class, something that you learned from this class, which you understood. So, Akanksha, what did you understand from today's class? What was the main point that you understood? You're on mute. Yeah, you're again on mute for some reason. Yeah,
Um, I I learned three kind of energies,
yeah,
internal, external energies, and then I learned that the soul, whatever we are just feeding, it's like whatever this body, we are not feeding this body, we are feeding this soul.
yeah,
And also, my second point was that it's like we are too much attached to this body, but we should I should learn to attach to the soul, to feed some proper good news to the soul, because the body just like evolves, like the body just finishes, but the soul is present all the time in the universe. So it's like whatever we are feeding to the soul, it just like keeps there, it's like always present in the universe.
correct.
So
Very good.
that's
Yep.
the reason.
It's like I got a very good example, like somebody had given me this metaphor. It's like we are hungry, but instead of putting food in our mouth, we're feeding our elbow. Will that satisfy the body? No, right?
No.
So similarly, when we're trying to satisfy our body, it's like doing that. We are looking for happiness and pleasure, but we're looking for it in the wrong way. We think that by satisfying this body, we'll be happy. But it's like putting food in the elbow and expecting that your hunger will be satisfied. We need to put it in the correct place, which is the mouth. So in our case, if you want to actually be happy and blissful, we need to feed the soul, like you said. Abhishek, what did you learn from today's class?
Don't
Anything?
cry for the things which is not permanent.
Very good. Priya.
It's little
Yeah,
difficult,
sorry,
but
sorry.
I don't have a particular word, but
Yeah.
I have learned this. Like, yes,
Exactly. We spend so much time crying for unnecessary, temporary things when we don't even realize that this body is also temporary. It's also going to go one day. So it's not like we should leave everything and quit, but we should use our intelligence to understand, okay, this body is temporary. How can I look at the permanent and then work towards the permanent, which in our case is looking for Krishna. Priya, what did you learn from today's class?
First of all, the three energies of Lord Krishna: eternal, external, and marginal.
Yes.
And as human, are the marginal energy of Krishna. So I think for us to know what we are, like to recognize us as a bird, as a soul, and then to, like, to nourish the soul, like how we nourish the tree, we plant its root. So we need to do that, and then we need to also that if we give ourselves to Krishna, then it's we are giving ourselves to us as well.
Very good. Very good. Perfect. Other three, why you covered? Don't be covered by.
No, I'm in bed. That's
Okay, you have written repeated cycle of frustration makes the soul fully determined to never return. Yep, that's very good. Repeated cycle of frustration makes the soul fully determined to never return to this illusion. Very good. So the soul has trying we try again and again to exploit this material nature. How can I enjoy? How can I we try to exploit it in different ways. How can I gratify my senses? I can eat this, I can enjoy with this person. We always are doing that. But after doing all of that, also when we realize again and again, we get disappointment after disappointment. It's finally the soul makes the conclusion and frustration that out of frustration it knows that there is no happiness in this world by trying to feed our material body. Actually, enjoyment lies in nourishing of the soul, and that is only done by Krishna, by making Krishna happy.
because
um
like earlier, I thought I mean, we might have curiosity, right? When we
Yeah.
were in Krishna, but now
Yeah.
this time we are frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's curiosity. So Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita that Chaturvida bhajante mam gyani cha bharatar sabha artha jigyasur arthati gyani cha bharatar sabha. So you can look that up. Chaturvida bhajante mam. Somebody look that verse up. Chaturvida bhajante mam in Bhagavad Gita. Whoever finds that verse can read it. To find that verse at the end of Bhagavad Gita, there'll be all the Sanskrit, there'll be a general index and all the Sanskrit verses are given and you can just track that. So Chatur, Catur. Chatur Vida Bhajante Mam Gyani Cha Bharatar Sabha Artha Jigyasur Arthati Gyani Cha Bharatar Sabha.
416.
Huh?
13. Sorry,
Can you
413.
read? Yep, that sounds correct. Can you read the translation? Just the translation.
I'm just
You have it in Nepali, I'm
turning it
guessing.
on. Oh, I have the
Oh,
Indian.
English. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes when you read the Bhagavad Gita in English version,
Yeah.
it's really hard to understand some of the words, and you need to Google it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, hey, why should I Google? Use the Google.
Yeah.
I can use the Hindi version.
Yeah.
That's why I took the Hindi version and just return the
Yeah,
English one.
that's fine.
Sorry.
Are you Nepali or Indian?
By birth I'm Nepalese. By ethnicity